Nothing we say is investment advice. Please pause on all 3 pages of this disclaimer and read it.
Everybody, Cowboy here. You might notice a little bit of a difference in today's weekly market update. This is live. It's going to be quick and dirty. It's going to be no nonsense. That's because it's Mother's Day, and I don't have a lot of time to go through editing the video and putting in all the fancy stuff. So today is just going to be the data. Now, what I would like while you're watching this, send me a message. Say, hey, I like it this way. Do it like this every time. But if you like the fancy stuff with all the editing, let me know. I'll do that too. I just didn't have time today. Now, first of all, if you click the link in the description, you see it right there, you're going to get more free training. You're also going to get a free algo, right? Just go in the link. It'll say free algo. Give us your email. We'll send you the algo. Let's jump into the charts. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin, Solana, EURUSD, GBPUSD, USDJPY, USDCAD, GBPJPY, AUDJPY, AUDUSD, USDCHF, SP 500, Dow, and NASDAQ futures, gold, and silver. As usual, we're going to start with the news. Okay, we're going to go take a look at what's happening this week. And most of the news that seems to matter right now is at least seemingly to do with the China trade deal. Now, all we're hearing about the China trade deal is that there is progress, and it's good progress. This could actually end up being a sell the news, or if you look at Josh Hartnett, it's buy the news and sell the fact, or whatever it might be. It just might be that it's being oversold, meaning that they're saying there's a lot of progress, but when it comes out, it's not going to be that much progress. I would reserve excitement. Right now, if you look at the opening on the NASDAQ, which we're actually going to start with the NASDAQ, and we're going to start probably doing that more often. If you look at that, it's gapped up and it continues to go up. So before we get into that and all of the, I don't want to call it exuberance, but the market excitement, let's take a look at what's happening this week, because there are actually 2 big landmines that could really throw things off, might crush things upwards, might push them down. That's going to happen on Tuesday. And it's the CPI, the core CPI, 8:30 a.m. EST for the USD. This right here, a lot of eyes are on this, okay? Now, a lot of people wanted Powell to cut the rates. Trump is saying he wants Powell to cut rates. Powell saying he doesn't see the data to cut the rates. Powell needs data. This is data. If the CPI shows that inflation is cooling off, then he could have reason to cut the rates. So a low CPI means that, okay, maybe we might cut the rates sooner. That would shoot markets upwards. Now, the opposite of that is a high CPI, higher than expected. So the expected amount is 0.3% for core. For regular CPI, it's 0.3, and for year over year, it's 2.4. If the estimates are above that, it means things are still running hot. No rate cuts are coming anytime soon, right? So high or low, that can affect markets. High number, markets might drop a bit. Low number, markets might soar. The only other items on Tuesday are the European Open, Great Britain's claim account change that can affect Forex markets. And then you got Governor Bailey speaking that same day at 11 a.m. EST. Later on, the Aussies are going to talk about their wage price index quarter over quarter. So if you're trading the Aussie at 9:30 p.m. EST, that can affect you. Wednesday, pretty quiet. Again, we have some Aussie data coming out at 9:30 p.m. EST for the Aussies employment data. Thursday, we have at the European Open GBP's GDP. So the British GDP could affect trading the pound in the Forex markets. And again, the next landmine Thursday. So it's Tuesday and Thursday, both at the same time, 8:30 a.m. EST. But there's even more data coming out as usual on Thursday. Not only do we have PPI, which is producer price index, which is important. It's another inflation metric that gets kind of underestimated. It really can move markets again if it is above or below the major estimates here. And there they are right here, 0.3, 0.3, and 0.2. For all of the, well, actually, I take that back. There are only 2. There's core PPI at 0.3, PPI month over month at 0.2. If above, below, same story as CPI. Go back and watch that if you want to know how it works. Then there's core retail sales month over month. And then there's retail sales, and then there's unemployment claims. So a lot of data coming out. And if all those data skew the market in the same direction, it could be quite violent. So I'd be careful trading 8:30 a.m. EST. And then 10 minutes later, you got Powell speaking. Okay. So you got CPI, then PPI, then Powell speaking all within like 3 days. So it's kind of a crazy week, could add a lot of volatility, could push things in a direction that is unexpected either way, or it could be nothing. It could just be the numbers come out mild and nothing goes on. Now, the only other item this week I see is on Friday, 10 a.m. EST, University of Michigan consumer sentiment and inflation expectations. And these are red envelope deals. These could actually make quite a difference here. Okay, so I'd watch out for that too. Most Fridays are trash for trading anyway. I stopped even doing Fridays as far as our live lab with Algo Factory because the numbers are just terrible. Price gets pushed around, volatility's gone less than halfway through the day. But we did make a big change at Algo Factory, and I'm going to be doing a lot more scalping and live trading, like for hours at a time, as long as there are trades to take. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Let's get into the charts. We'll start with the NASDAQ. Now, the NASDAQ really is opening. I thought we would initially, when it first opened, I thought we'd see a pullback, but it's just continuing up. I'm going to revise this estimate that I initially did here across the board. And if you look here, if you zoom out, you have some levels to watch on the NASDAQ. There's a big consolidation here between the NASDAQ numbers of about 21,000-ish and 22,000. So 20,950, so basically 21,000, and then 22,104. So there's a lot of reason for price to go there. It's a question of whether or not this open market jitter is just a little bit of exuberance due to the China thing. And I thought it would wear off, and it's not wearing off. Now, it could wear off. It could just bounce right off of this, come back down and go sideways. But I do think that we might want to add the possibility that it does break upwards. Okay. It could actually come up and end up in this range. If more news comes out and the news is really good, you could see that happen. I'm not, it's Sunday. When the market opens after a lot of news, it can squeeze in a particular direction. So I think we might just see it calm down and head sideways. And we're only projecting all of our charts out to the first CPI, which is Tuesday morning. So we're only looking at about 48 hours or less of markets this week. And it's not a lot of movement. And that's because the CPI is such an important thing right now. Things could really change. So all we can really do is take a look at your supports and resistances where there's been prior price action and pivots and understand price might go past that or simply reject and go along with those. So I don't, this move down, I also put in play because the China news might not be that great. We might get the real news Monday or Tuesday and it just tanks everything, right? Very unpredictable market this week, which is why it's going to be quick and dirty. So let's go ahead, do the rest of the indices. We'll back into Bitcoin and go through the Forex markets. SP 500, I had the same kind of expectations. We would see it head down, but price is stubbornly heading up. So I am going to revise that. And I do think, though, we might see a same kind of a struggle. It may continue up, but I think it's going to have a hard time breaking past 58.39. And I don't know that we have the kind of trajectory to make it there before Tuesday morning, right? It might just kind of start heading up and then the news hits. And again, the China news could come out and it could do anything. Price could just simply melt downwards if it wants to. It could just shoot up. Very, very headline dependent this week. Not very much of a forecast this week. You just have to understand this is a headline week. And it is what it is. Dow, same kind of thing. Staying stubbornly high might break this 41,978, so basically 42,000 sort of high. It could head down, or if the China's news really truly is exuberant, then of course things will skyrocket up to who knows where. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Now, to look at the charts only without worrying about the headlines, Bitcoin is probably going to continue to head up. I think it's going to try to make a run at the highs, but as it stands right now, it is against resistance, and it's going to run into more and more resistance the closer it gets to the all-time high at 109,808. Basically, it's 109.5, more or less. Depends on what exchange you looked at. There is a resistance if you look back here at about 107, where it did kind of flop on the way down. It created some pretty decent resistance, so price could stop heading up at that time. I do think it's going to kind of slough off, but eventually, as long as the news is not too harmful, I think it will make a run up. But I'm not really projecting past Tuesday. We just don't have a lot. We have too many things happening and not enough data for me to feel comfortable going past a couple of days. And this is how trading is. There are weeks when you just don't have the data. You got to hang back, let it come out, go from there. Let's take a look at Solana. Solana done really well as Bitcoin has stabilized. Solana's really, really made a move up going back to last Wednesday. I think it's actually being a little more stubborn, so I'm going to revise a little bit, but I think it's going to head sideways or possibly up, depending on, again, the news, headlines, everything else. And if the headlines for the news are terrible, then of course it could just head down. I don't think it would go down past 157 unless the news was really bad, though, because there's a pretty strong area here of support where it might just go down to grab and continue sideways. So that's what I see with that. EURUSD, I did think it would head down. It may still. the overall move, I think, is going to be down. I think it's going to grind down slowly over the next few days. But of course, headlines can change that. You're going to see the same more or less with GBP, slow grind down, possible headlines changing that. You have a local, this is an older resistance. I'm not going to worry too much about this number right here, but I am thinking that it could knock its head on 133.20 if it does try to head up. And it's heading up now. It's being very stubborn, doesn't want to go down. Look, Sunday opens are terrible to trade. Price tends to move in the opposite direction that it should, especially when you got all this news coming out. So again, I'm not putting a lot of stock in these. You know, I don't trade these. This is more for to have an idea of which way the wind is blowing. And it is extremely difficult to tell which way the wind's blowing. So I would just kind of relax through this, let the charts play out a little bit. I'll be back on Tuesday morning, right after CPI. And that's probably more the report to pay attention to. USDJPY, same kind of thing. But in this case, you're looking at more of an unnatural movement. This is heading up, and this will tend to head up as the markets head up, right? So I don't want to say unnatural. It's not quite the right way to say it, but the chart is moving a little bit opposite to what's expected, and the USD now is going to become a little bit more popular. So as the USD goes up, money will actually flow to JPY. It should grind up as well. Now, if we look back, there is an important resistance sitting at, let's grab this. And again, this is all dependent on positive headlines and so on and so forth, right? It was China trade deal is okay, not bad. Probably going to knock its head later this week on 148.30, but I don't think it has the trajectory to make it there. I think it's going to slowly grind up towards Tuesday and wait to see what happens. And of course, headlines can push it down or up, just like everything else. USD CAD, this one actually I did think was going to continue to head up. The USD CAD do trade a little bit differently in the current environment than the rest of the market, probably due to China's trade relations with North America. And I think it's going to slowly grind up, but it could knock its head on 139.80 on the way up. Again, we're only going out 48 hours or so, less than that due to CPI coming out on Tuesday. So hang tight. We'll give you more data as Tuesday comes around. And plus, the China headline should pop in tomorrow to do whatever it does to the market open. The market open could be absolutely wild. This is going to be a very unpredictable week for a lot of the week. So GBPJPY, sideways to up grind, possible move down. Probably not going to make it past 195.83 this week. Most likely not before the CPI. We'll see what happens. Usually before CPI, what happens is the market kind of dries up because all the money goes into the sidelines and that kind of thing. AUDJPY similar, kind of a sideways to up grind, but maybe just a sideways grind. And your next resistance is up pretty high. It's at 95.35. If it does choose to head down in an opposite direction due to news, there's a decent little support here at 92.82. Could actually run down to 92.21. That could happen, and it might bounce right about there, just continue to go sideways. We could be locked into kind of a sideways deal with some of the JPY pairs depending on the news. AUDUSD, previously very bullish, showing some bullishness now, though, being a little more stubborn. I do think, though, it's going to have a hard time getting past 0.6517, so 65.17 cents, and I don't even think it's going to make it up there. That trajectory, I mean, it could before Tuesday, but I think the market is going to dry out and it's just going to head sideways. And I think that's most markets. I don't think we're going to see much from these pairs outside of crazy news. So, but anything can happen, and it is what it is. Tough week to try and predict. Let's take a look at the Swissy. Okay, so Swissy, again, strong, but starting to see a little pullback here. It does look rather bullish, but it's in kind of a sideways move that wants to break out. There was an attempt to break out, seems to be failing. So while price might head up, it might also just kind of drop back into this sideways motion. We're going to see what happens with that. If it does break out, it's probably not going to be able to make it all the way up to this resistance, which is at 85.77 francs. So it might just be that we see it's 0.8577 actually francs. So it might just kind of go sideways to up grind. Let's move down to gold. I do expect gold to pull back, but it's at a support now, which is 3,200. Gold has been pretty stubborn, but what we have here, high time frame, is an all-time high at 34, an attempt to gain and hit that all-time high, but then it rejected, right? So the rejection was lower than the prior high, so we could see gold head down. It's just a question of how far. Gold's very popular right now, so you might see people buying at 3260, 3200. I don't think it'll go all the way to 29.50 this week, but it could sink down. But I think it's just going to be more of a steady descent, and it might bounce at about 3,200 and start to just find maybe a range down here. We'll see what happens with gold. Very popular right now. Silver, on the other hand, not a lot of volatility. I expect sideways price action. It might want to bounce around 32.20 or 31.12. Might want to bounce there. We'll see what happens with that. But silver just has not been very volatile. And with CPI coming, I expect it to continue to move sideways. So that's it. Quick and dirty on the live. Don't forget, at the bottom of the screen, link in the description, you'll get a free algo, and we'll give you also an invite. Now, the invite's going to be to what will probably, well, I know what it's going to be. It's going to be me trading for several hours at a time. It's going to be a workshop. It's going to be free. And we'll send that to you. And we'll also send you weekly updates, just like this one. We'll usually I record those and I make them nice and I produce them with effects and stuff, and I send them out. But this time we did it live. I'm glad you all got to watch. And thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Come check us out, Algo Factory. We will show you how to trade like a hedge fund pro. Now, I love you all, and we'll see you Tuesday morning when some news is out, and I'll be able to have a better handle on what's going on with the markets. Pretty crazy week. Enjoy your evening. Happy Mother's Day.
Algonquin call 15 minutes. It's 5:45 p.m.